We are talking about 5 things that you may not know about special needs families.
Well, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Thank you for clicking play and joining us today as we just talk a little bit about some things that people may not know about families with special needs kids in them. So we have that. We've shared before in some previous videos about our son. He is 7 years old currently, and he's a special needs kid, and he's awesome. He's great. But there are some things you may not know about families like ours. Now, we're not special needs families experts.
No.
What we are experts on our family.
Yeah.
So the things we share today may not apply to everybody.
Right.
May not be everybody's experience, but it is ours. And we thought by sharing a little bit about that, maybe it will help somebody. Kind of be a little bit more familiar, especially if they've got friends or families similar to ours. So you don't have to grab a paper and notepad or anything, but just hang with us. So number one, being overly friendly with the special needs child may not actually be helpful. Because sometimes, when we'll show up in an environment or something and our son is, being himself, there's oftentimes some really well-meaning, good-natured person, and they try to engage him. And how does that usually go?
Not well.
Right.
Not well. And like he said, really well-meaning, kind, sweet people, and it overwhelms Truett, like to the extreme, overwhelms him. So I remember when he was really young, and I remember we would try to do all the things, like we would hurry to the booth and we would take him and we would tuck him like into the inside of the booth and
at a restaurant.
At a restaurant, and the serving staff would come up and they're like, being awesome, and they're like, "Hey, how are you? Do you want something to color with? Do you want what do you?" And they're trying to ask him questions and everything, and we're just kind of like,
don't do that. Don't give him crayons. He'll just throw them at you.
And I remember him sitting in high chairs on the end of the table because he was still that age.
Worst.
And he had to go on the end of the table. And I remember him like throwing knives and forks, like grabbing them and throwing them at the serving staff. And he was just so overwhelmed. And, we were trying to venture out, and we would literally pick, like, very specific places where we felt like we wouldn't have to engage people on a really high level. And
I think sometimes it happens because I think people are trying to overcompensate for their, like they don't know what to do. So they don't want to come across. Most people don't want to come across rude or like we don't care. They don't want to do that. So they try to overcompensate and go overboard, and it's like it just doesn't really help. So what should people do? Like, at least from our experience.
Yeah, I think just like one thing I've noticed is like the really good experiences we've had have been when that particular staff person or employee, when they really just seemed like they were feeding off of our cues. And, that like watching the parents, and if they're trying to rush through the process of checking out at a store or getting to the car, like, let's hurry up and finish this. Like, this has happened so many times where we're trying to we're just wanting it to be over and done with. Like, we've got to go. We've already overstayed the time, that he has allotted for us to do something. And it's like they are trying to do all the extra stuff.
Yeah.
And so the really good experiences have been when the staff was just like, "Here you go. Here, hurry up. Here, how can I help you? Okay, there, go." And they're just really super in tune with what the parents are doing. And so even if you're like a friend of a parent, you know, who is, you kind of see them like struggling with their special needs child in the moment, you know, just kind of like hang back and, you know, kind of watch for their cues. If they look at you like, help me, you know, maybe jump in there and try to help. But like, if they don't, then that probably means like, I've got this, there's a way I have to do this, and I have to do it the same every time. And just let me do it, and we'll all be on our way. You know,
just kind of take the lead from the parents. And not insert yourself without being asked, kind of thing. Yeah. So what's the second? So that's number one. Yeah. So number two.
So we are not antisocial,
right?
Families, but we are strategically social. And what I mean is, public places like restaurants and going to other people's homes, like trying to engage in life socially, which we all want to do, sometimes feels really, really daunting. And the idea of going somewhere for a couple of hours or whatever and trying to fully be able to engage socially as an adult it feels exhausting sometimes. And the reason is just that there are certain challenges that our child experiences that other people just they're not thinking about it. I mean, because it took us a long time to learn to think about it. You know, if I come into your home with my son, there's a really good chance that you're going to try to be friendly and be like, hey, how are you doing? And just like we were talking about, like, he may not even look at you or acknowledge you or even talk and be friendly back. And it's not because, you know, he has an attitude or a mood right then, but literally like the smell of your home or the music you think is just playing softly on the TV, and it probably is, or, you know, just the lighting in your home. There are all of these things, and there have actually been studies done about like autistic people, and like literally they can hear sometimes the lights, like the bulbs and the lights, or they can noise that or sounds that we may not even pick up on, are painful to them in a way, like physically painful. And so for them to go into a different surrounding that's not like their home with their stuff and their sounds and their smells can be super overwhelming. And so I think a lot of times it's like, how are we going to take our son? I'm not going to get to just relax and be an adult because I'm going to be trying to make him comfortable the whole time. And so just understanding that, like, if your friend says, we can't do that.
Yeah. And we had some friends when Truett was younger that kind of got offended because we didn't come to their house as much. And I remember just kind of telling them, you know, it's not you, it's you don't fully understand the cost, the emotional cost, the mental cost to engage in that. And like you said, it's not relaxing.
No. And I'm not going to be present with you. Yeah. I'm going to be,
And so if you know, if your friend does that, then, you know, just take that into consideration.
Yeah, or maybe even just say, hey, maybe would it be better if I came over? Like, I'm not trying to invite myself, but is that easier for you? You know, like, do you want to go to a park? Sometimes parks are a little bit like, okay, because it's like outside and you don't feel like you're in a closed space. You know, like there are other ways for you to be social. They're just not always the traditional, typical ways.
So number 3 of kind of 5 things that you may not know about special needs families. Number 3 is that having a special needs sibling changes your life. And so this is specifically just about like brothers and sisters of special needs kids. And there are incredibly positive things that other neurotypical siblings won't experience. And then there are some challenging things. There's some things that are just different, like babysitting. Like a lot of times, you know, you'll ask your older kids to babysit their younger siblings. Well, that is a completely different
Yeah.
experience when you're babysitting a 4-year-old who's or a 5-year-old who's autistic, as opposed to a neurotypical like 4 or 5-year-old. It's just different.
Yeah.
A lot of times, siblings of special needs kids, their parents are available in different ways.
Yeah.
So the parent availability and navigating
Changes.
that, it changes. But, on a really positive note, what we've experienced is that it really does change the way you see the world.
Oh, yeah.
In a
Yeah.
very good way, in a very positive way.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
They're just, the experience itself just has a way of opening you up to other people, to other experiences, to new things, to different things. And we've experienced that as a real blessing as well.
I've watched especially our older boys, not only are they just much more aware of children and like how they experience, and explore and everything, but they're also just they pick up on things that I think everybody's not paying attention to. So I think our boys are really. I've heard really good things, and I would imagine that they're really good in like our children's ministry at church, because there's just a patience that they have acquired sort of by just being thrown into it, actually. And there's just kind of like a way, a gifting to read the room and read the child, I think, that they're interacting with, that makes them very nurturing. And so, I see that as a huge blessing. I'm very proud of them for how they have matured into the being older brothers of, this child. And so.
And even if they're not naturally nurturing,
Right,
like our oldest is not a natural nurturer, but it does soften those edges.
Well, and I watch them, like, just like the things we were talking about earlier with, like, the things we have to be aware of and think ahead on and everything. Like, they do that too. And so there's so many times where I see them just really kind of going ahead of the situation and making space and making room for our son and what he's going to need, and how can I make this easier on mom and dad, and man, I just, sometimes I feel bad about it, because I feel like it's, like you had said, it's made us available in different ways or unavailable in different ways. But I've also watched us like all become a team that just shows up. We just show up as a team, and we're like, what needs to happen right now? Like this is not going well, or we want this to be the best that it can be. So what can we do? And everybody just shows up, to be their best.
Yeah, so if you have friends or family members who have families like that, and there are siblings involved, like look for ways to encourage them. Like look for ways to just to honor them, but to also just like get something special. Just singling them out, not like an embarrassing way, but just to, hey, I see you, I notice you, you're doing a great job, this is awesome, let me bless you with something. All right, number 4.
So we do more laundry than you can even imagine.
Oh my word.
So, and it's not just because we have 5 kids. That is part of it. There's 7 of us in this house. But the thing is, our 3 older kids do their own laundry, okay? So we still do more laundry.
You could not, I'm telling you, you could not imagine.
And I would say that your friends, if their special needs son or daughter is even like teenage years or younger, I would say they are still not to an age of independence in such a way that this is not having to happen in their home.
Yeah, and let's just, we'll be real. Let's just be honest.
This is what this is for.
We experience a lot of potty accidents.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of bathroom accidents. And it's, it's kind of weird because it doesn't really happen at school, doesn't
Right.
really happen at church. It happens when we're in the relaxing atmosphere of home,
Yeah.
and we've talked to our developmental psychologist
Yeah.
about it, and she's like, "Yep, like
Yeah,
that's
this is how it
this is how it is,"
Yeah.
and so he's 7, and some days it's
Yeah.
like total win.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have nailed it. We have a single accident. This is awesome. We
Yeah.
finally crossed the river. We finally done it. We've achieved the promised land. And then the next day it's like
4 accidents. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 accidents.
And
He's
this is like, and these are things that no one can do anything about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been potty trained in the pretty young child average since he was like 4.5.
Yeah, we crossed that line at
He
because
did
I remember in
pull-ups.
2020 that was one of my big wins.
Yeah.
Because of all the downtime.
Yeah, all the
we
at home
kind of
time,
crossed that barrier.
Yeah.
So we've been in this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's still
so and it's really it really just has to do with his ability to be aware of his body's signals and what he's doing, and like a toddler would be, like, to stop what he's doing and go to the bathroom. And I just want to fist bump all of the other moms and dads out there that are in this boat, because it's the thing. I have talked to close friends of mine with special needs kids, and we are all like family because we have to talk real about this stuff so much. But nobody, we've talked about how nobody talks about this aspect. And I remember when we were applying for some benefits for our son, trying to get him some different things. And one of the things that was listed on it was because sometimes you'll need a new washing machine. And that's when I was like, yes,
yeah,
that's true. Who else is washing giant blankets and sheets and
on a
full
daily or
loads
every
on
other
a
day?
Daily,
yeah.
He goes through sheets, y'all. He goes through, he has a futon with a cover on it. We have to wash that all the time. We do carpet cleaning all the time. We had to buy an actual carpet shampooer for him. And so these are things that people won't talk about, and they're not going to, your friend is not going to come up to you and talk about all the potty accidents they had to clean up. But be aware that this is this is kind of this low, stressor that's just kind of there all the time for families like this, that this is ongoing, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight, and there may not be, depending on what disabilities are involved. And so it's hard, and 7-year-olds
are basically adults in that area of their life.
And I mean, okay, and one more really real thing.
Yeah.
It's first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
This is what
you're sleepy.
First thing in the morning and last thing at night. This is what you're dealing with. And this is what they're dealing with, y'all. And so, there are things, I think one of the biggest things we can do just to minister to the families that go through this, that we understand and we want to share, is that there are these details about people's lives that they're not telling you, and they don't necessarily want to talk about this specific thing,
right.
But just to be aware that just because their child stays dry at school or stays dry at church or didn't have an accident when you were with them or whatever, these are things like our son doesn't eat with a fork. He can't eat with a fork, and so. And he doesn't know how to use a napkin or a tissue.
He doesn't really use it has to do with that texture thing,
right? And he's just constantly using his clothes and his hair to wipe his spaghetti in, And so, it's not anything you can fix for a friend. It's not something they necessarily want to discuss in detail.
But now they know.
But now you know. Now you know that this is something that is kind of just a consistent stressor for your friend, who is experiencing these years of their child's life.
So number 5, we
Yeah.
come through 5 things that you may not know about special needs families. And number 5 is just that there are moments of joy and celebration that are endless and ongoing, but they have to be looked for. Like, you have to look for them. One of the things we've experienced and talked about is that because of our son's disability, his diagnosis, he's not measured by kind of the standards that a lot of children his age would get measured by, which means on one hand, there are different measurements and standards and all that, but it also means like we genuinely get to celebrate every little accomplishment, even like but it's not even just that, it's that you get to celebrate it again and again, because like they'll do it like if he uses a full proper sentence with subject, verb, and adjectives, and it's like he nailed it. That's a big win. Like, that is huge.
It's like hearing your 14-month-old say 2 words in a row. Like, it is that feeling.
And then they may not do that again. For 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And then they do it, and it's so you just get to kind of celebrate. So there's a lot of that. A lot of that kind of joy, when they decide to put their shoes on by themselves. And it's just that little win. 7 years old. Most people think 7-year-olds ought to be able to do that, but when he does it, it's a big celebration. It's a big win.
I remember. So most of his communication is, Mom, I need chips, or something like that. Like, that's pretty typical. Mom, I need milk. Mom, more, and he uses some sign language and everything. I remember the other day, though, he was trying to get our daughter's attention, and he was he just finally looks at her and square in the eyes, and he says her name, and he goes, I need you to get me more grapes. And it was just this full, very direct, full sentence. And I was like, dude, that was so awesome. Good talking, good words. That was so great. And it's not like you said, he didn't go back to saying, all of a sudden I'm talking in full sentences with adjectives and all this stuff. But it was just to hear that many words in a row roll off his tongue was just amazing. Or I remember him just deciding to put his own pajamas on one night. And I didn't know he could do that because we've been practicing, but a lot of times his attention, span, he doesn't take the time to try to do it, but to see him do it and to know that all the time that his wonderful therapists have spent with him, all the time that, we would try to show him things over and over and over, to see that moment and just rejoice in it. And it'll bring tears to your eyes because it's seeing him in some form be independent. And it's the total opposite way of raising your other where you're oh, stay with me, for him it's oh my gosh, he can do that by himself. You just get so overjoyed by that, and it's amazing.
And even the little quirk things too, our son, he has different vocal stems that he'll do to kind of soothe himself. And just the other night, he was doing that in the living room. He was so excited. And he, kind of let out a loud stem, and we're all sitting there at the table, and we just look at each other and we just start laughing. Because, it was funny.
It was complete joy. He was just broadcasting this joy that he felt, and it just overwhelmed his whole body,
And we all got to experience that with him. And so moments like that are there. You just have to look for them. And so that's 5 things. That's 5 things that you may not know about special needs families. And so, like we said, we're not special needs experts. And so maybe this is probably more appropriately 5 things you may not know about our special needs family. But anyway, hopefully that's been helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clicking play again and just joining us on this conversation. We hope it's been beneficial and give you a little bit of insight into some of your friends and family. Hey, if this has been good, click subscribe.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
Share.
Share it.
Hit the notification bell to
Yeah.
get notified when we release new content, and then invite somebody to join you in the next one. So.
Yeah, and we also have it everything pretty much in podcast form as well.
Yeah,
so wherever you get podcasts, you can listen
for audio.
To our
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next time.